uncomfortably. Yes, here it was, William. William, he would have to look back to find the surname, William Stainsforth, his own initials. He did not think the coincidence meant anything, but it coloured his mind and weakened its resistance to his obsession. So uneasy was he that when the next postcard came, it came as a relief. "Does this remind you of anything?" he read, and involuntarily turned the postcard over. He saw a picture of a gull, Gloucester gull. He stared at it as if it could tell him something, then with an effort went on reading. "I'm quite close now. My movements, as you may have guessed, are not quite under my control, but all being well, I look forward to seeing you soon, sometime this weekend. Then we can really come to grips. I wonder if you'll recognize me. It won't be the first time you've given me hospitality. Ti stringo la mano. As always, W.S." Walter took the postcard straight to the police station and asked if he could have police protection over the weekend. The officer in charge smiled at him and said he was quite sure it was a hoax, but he would tell someone to keep an eye on the place. "You still have no idea who it could be?" he asked. Walter shook his head. It was Tuesday. Walter Street had plenty of time to think about the weekend. At first he felt he would not be able to live through the interval, but strange to say, his confidence increased instead of waning. He set himself to work as though he could work, and presently he found he could, differently from before, and, he thought, better. It was though the nervous strain he had been living under had like an acid dissolved a layer of non-conductive thought that came between him and his subject. He was nearer to it now, and instead of responding only too readily to his stage directions, his characters gave themselves wholeheartedly to all the tests he put them to. So passed the days, and the dawn of Friday seemed like any other day, until something jerked him out of his self-induced trance, and suddenly he asked himself, when does a weekend begin? A long weekend begins on Friday, and that his panic returned. He went to the street door and looked out. It was a suburban, unfrequented street of detached Regency houses like his own. They had tall square gateposts, some crowned with semicircular iron brackets, holding lanterns. Most of these were out of repair. Only 2 or 3 were ever lit. A car went slowly down the street. Some people crossed it. Everything was normal. Several times that day he went to look and saw nothing unusual, and when Saturday came, bringing no postcard, his panic had almost subsided. He nearly rang up the police to tell them not to bother to send anyone after all. But they were as good as their word. They did send someone, between tea and dinner, the time when weekend guests most commonly arrive. Walter went to the door, and there, between 2 unlit gateposts, he saw a policeman standing. The first policeman he had ever seen in Charlotte Street. At the sight and the relief it brought him, he realized how anxious he had been. Now he felt safer than he had ever felt in his life, and also a little ashamed at having given extra trouble to a hard-worked body of men. Should he go and speak to his unknown guardian, offer him a cup of tea or a drink? It would be nice to hear him laugh at Walter's fancies, but no. Somehow he felt his security the greater when its source was impersonal and anonymous. P.C. Smith was somehow less impressive than police protection. Several times from an upper window He didn't like to open the door and stare. He made sure that his guardian was still there, and once, for added proof, he asked his housekeeper to verify the strange phenomenon. Disappointingly, she came back saying she had seen no policeman. But she was not very good at seeing things, and when Walter went a few minutes later, he saw him plain enough. The man must walk about, of course. Perhaps he had been taking a stroll when Mrs. Kendall looked. It was contrary to his routine to work after dinner, but tonight he did. He felt so much in the vein. Indeed, a sort of exaltation possessed him. The words ran off his pen. It would be foolish to check the creative impulse for the sake of a little extra sleep. They were right who said the small hours were the time to work. When his housekeeper came in to say good night, he scarcely raised his eyes. In the warm, snug little room, the silence purred around him like a kettle. He did not even hear the doorbell till it had been ringing for some time. A visitor at this hour? His knees trembling, he went to the door, scarcely knowing what he expected to find. So what was his relief, on opening it, to see the doorway filled by the tall figure of a policeman. Without waiting for the man to speak, come in, my dear fellow," he exclaimed. He held his hand out, but the policeman did not take it. "You must have been very cold standing there." "I didn't know that it was snowing, though," he added, seeing the snowflakes on the policeman's cape and helmet. "Come in and warm yourself." "Thanks," said the policeman. "I don't mind if I do." Walter knew enough of the phrases used by men of the policeman's stamp not to mistake this for a grudging acceptance. "This way," he prattled on. "I was writing in my study. By Jove, it was cold. I'll turn the gas on more. Now won't you take your traps off and make yourself at home?" "I can't stay long," the policeman said. "I've got a job to do, as you know." "Oh yes," said Walter. "Such a silly job. A sinecure." He stopped, wondering if the policeman would know what a sinecure was. "I suppose you know what it's about, the postcards?" The policeman nodded. "But nothing can happen to me as long as you are here," said Walter. I shall be as safe houses. Stay as long as you can and have a drink." "I never drink on duty," said the policeman, still in his cape and helmet. He looked around. "So this is where you work," he said. "Yes, I was writing when you rang." "Some poor devils for it, I expect," the policeman said. "Oh, why?" Walter was hurt by his unfriendly tone and noticed how hard his gooseberry eyes were. "I'll tell you in a minute," said the policeman, and then the telephone bell rang. Walter excused himself and hurried from the room. "This is the police station," said a voice. "Is that Mr. Streeter?" Walter said it was. "Well, Mr. Streeter, how is everything at your place? All right, I hope? I'll tell you why I ask. I'm sorry to say we quite forgot about that little job we were going to do for you. Bad coordination, I'm afraid." "But," said Walter, "you did send someone." "No, Mr. Streeter, I'm afraid we didn't." "But there's a policeman here in this very house." There was a pause. Then his interlocutor said, in a less casual voice, "He can't be one of our chaps. Did you see his number by any chance?" "No." After another pause, the voice said, "Would you like us to send somebody now?" "Yes, please." "All right then. We'll be with you in a jiffy." Walter put back the receiver. What now? He asked himself. Should he barricade the door? Should he run into the street? Should he try to rouse his housekeeper? A policeman of any sort was something to be reckoned with, but a road policeman? A lawkeeper turned lawbreaker, roaming about loose, scavenging people. How long would it take the real police to come? What was a jiffy in terms of minutes? While he was debating, the door opened and his guest came in. No room's private when the street door's once passed, he said. Had you forgotten I was a policeman? Was, said Walter, edging away from him. You are a policeman. I have never been other things as well, the policeman said. Thief, pimp, blackmailer, not to mention murderer. You should know. The policeman, if such he was, seemed to be moving towards him, and Walter suddenly became alive to the importance of small distances. The space between the sideboard and the table and between one chair and another. I don't know what you mean, he said. Why do you speak like that? I've never done you any harm. I've never set eyes on you before. Oh, haven't you? The man said. But you've thought about me, and... His voice rose. You've written about me. You got some fun out of me, didn't you? Now I'm going to get some fun out of you. You made me just as nasty as you could. Wasn't that doing me harm? You didn't think what it would feel like to be me, did you? You didn't put yourself in my place, did you? You hadn't any pity for me, had you? Well, I'm not going to have any pity for you. But I tell you, cried Walter, clutching the table's edge, I don't know you. And now you say you don't know me. You did all that to me and then forgot me? His voice became a whine charged with self-pity. You forgot William Stainsforth? William Stainsforth? Yes. I was your scapegoat, wasn't I? You unloaded all your self-dislike on me. You felt pretty good while you were writing about me. Now, as one WS to another, what shall I do if I behave in character? I don't know, muttered Walter. You don't know? Stainsforth sneered. You ought to know. You fathered me. What would William Stainsforth do if he met his old dad in a quiet place? His kind old dad who made him swing. Walter could only stare at him. You know what he'd do as well as I, said Stainsforth. Then his face changed, and he said abruptly, No, you don't, because you never really understood me. I'm not so black as you painted me. He paused, and a flame of hope flickered in Walter's breast. You never gave me a chance, did you? Well, I'm going to give you one. That shows you never understood me, doesn't it? Walter nodded. And there's another thing you've forgotten. What is that? I was a kid once, the ex-policeman said. Walter said nothing. You admit that, said William Stainsforth grimly. Well, if you can tell me of one virtue you ever credited me with, just one kind thought, just one redeeming feature. Yes, said Walter, trembling. Well, then I'll let you off. And if I can't, whispered Walter, well, then there's just too bad. We'll have to come to grips, and you know what that means. You took off one of my arms, but I've still got the other. Stainsforth, of the iron arm, you called me. Walter began to pant. I'll give you 2 minutes to remember, Stainsforth said. They both looked at the clock. At first, the stealthy movement of the hand paralysed Walter's thought. He stared at William Stainsforth's face, his cruel, crafty face, which seemed to be always in shadow, as if it was something the light could not touch.